I'm Lee. I'm a New Zealander living in the East Riding of Yorkshire in the United Kingdom, and this is my podcast about my life in making, my handmade life. I'm on Instagram as Instamatic louleigh, and I'm on Ravelry as louleigh, and I am a purveyor of fine knitting bags, and you can find my shop on Etsy as Shop Louleigh. And I have been joined today by my little fluffy puppy, who has realised now that he can get up on the bed by himself. So if the camera falls over and you suddenly get a view under my bed or something, then we're having technical difficulties with my animals. I wish my fluffy puppy would not sit on my show notes. So, welcome to the podcast. It's lovely to have you here and to be back chatting with you. Don't you eat that. No. See, here we go. This is how it's going to be today. You'll hear lots of me saying, Marshall, no. Oh, either that or he's just going to bother Bobby the whole time. If you've watched before, you're used to my animals snoring, making a racket, that sort of thing. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. We have a Ravelry group, and if you want to go over there and introduce yourself, that would be marvellous. It's always lovely to know who's watching, and I'm really glad to be sitting down and sharing some time with you today. What do I say next? Then I talk about what I'm going to wear, what I'm wearing. And I think I've talked about my jerkin before, so I shall just link to the pattern and whatnot. It is handmade by me. I made it out of scraps from my stash. And so if you like the pattern or with it, whatever, I shall link to it in the show notes. But I have talked about it before reasonably recently, so I forget which episode. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Perhaps I shouldn't. I might forget to put things in the show notes. It's usually just a list of links, but never mind. So this week, well, it's been rather exciting. The mother-in-law and I went to Yarndale on Saturday, and that was so much fun. I bought stuff. I bought more than I intended to, but that's not really a problem. That's all good things. And I met some people that I had only known online before, so that was loads of fun. And I kind of wish that I'd been able to, we'd had more time to sit down and just have a coffee with everybody. I think I could have gone along and not bought a ticket and just sit on the grass all afternoon swilling coffee and knitting and chatting to lovely people. That would have been really good. However, as I came home and I was putting away my yarn and whatnot, and I started to feel a bit overwhelmed by my stash. You see, it doesn't fit in the nice cabinet that I have. A chest of drawers. I don't have lots of clothes. I have a chest of drawers for my yarn. And it's full. And so I've got yarn here, yarn over there, and there's fibre in the next room, and there's yarn downstairs. I just feel like it's everywhere at the minute. So I made a resolution. I was thinking I need some sort of way of tracking what's going out and sort of just downsizing the stash just a bit in a way that was kind of achievable. And I thought, well, what can I reasonably knit before Christmas? And I had thought that I could knit 2 kilos before Christmas. I don't know what I was thinking, but when I went on to Ravelry and added up how much I'd knitted so far this year, it was only 2 kilos. So I thought, well, we're most of the way through the year, so it was kind of unreasonable to think that I could knit 2 kilos before Christmas. So I decided on 1 kilo. I'm going to try and knit. Well, I don't even know before Christmas. I'm not really committed to that date. What I am committed to, though, is to knit 1 kilo of my stash before I get more stash. And so, having made this resolution and having made a pile to make sure I knew what 1 kilo kind of looked like, made a pile of yarn, I went on to Instagram and told all you lot about my resolution. And quite a few of you said that you wanted to join in, which was loads of fun. And then people started asking me what the rules were. So I made them up as I went along. Yeah, basically they're, well, I think because the whole purpose of it is just as a way of kind of managing my stash, or managing your stash as well. You know, if you feel like it's just getting out of hand, it's just a way of managing it down a bit without completely, I don't know, yarn diet sounds awful. And the thing is, I like to have goals. I like to feel like, when I achieve a goal, that there's some sort of reward for that. And I just kind of thought, well, using up a kilo of yarn and then having a little reward would be rather nice. So anyway, as I said, lots of you decided that you would join in with me. Excuse me, my puppy is eating my show notes. Stand by. No. So, there is a hashtag which is knit1000G. And so if you want to join in on Instagram, then just pop over there and yeah, and show us what you're planning to knit and what you have knitted and how many grams you've got through. And lots of you already have done that. That's been really fun. Oh, it's lovely seeing everybody's yarn. I can't wait to see the projects as well. That'll be really exciting. But what I've decided to do as well is to set up a couple of threads in our Ravelry group, and one will just be a chatter thread, so you can flash your stash, or flash 1 kilo of your stash anyway, and talk about what you're planning to make and all that sort of thing. And the other one will be a thread for your finished objects and your progress. And in that thread, it'll be one entry per person, and you can just pop your finished objects in there and your stash flash and all that sort of thing, and put in how many grams you've gotten through. And if you just go back and edit your one entry and add in anything new you want to add. I'm being distracted by this fellow down here. He wants his tummy tickled. Anyway, I shouldn't interrupt when I'm telling you important stuff. So, yes, so in the finished sort of FO thread, or finishing glory thread, whatever you like to call it, just 1 entry per person, and you can just edit it with your finished things and how many grams you have there. And I've decided to give away prizes as well. The end date for this, I have in mind an end date, will be the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which I've decided to go to, and I think that's on the 10th of March. So is that 6 months? A little under 6 months that we've got. Yeah. And I'm going to give away prizes. I haven't decided how I'm going to give them away yet. I've decided there's going to be 3 prizes as we go along. So I haven't decided what the prizes will be. You'll have to stand by for that. Yes, if you'd like to donate a prize, then get in touch. But I'm sure I can rustle something exciting up from around here. Yeah, so if you feel like your stash is out of control, come join us. That would be good fun. I hope all that made sense. The first thing that I've decided to make towards my 1,000 grams, my kilo of stash used up, is the Neon Cardigan by Johi Locatelli. Here is my scrunched up pattern with a scrunched up photo of Johi in her cardigan. It's sort of like a mesh fabric, this one, but it's got a nice set-in sleeve with it, which I like because it doesn't make my shoulders seem narrow. I find raglans make me look really narrow in the shoulders. It's like a big arrow pointing at your head. And I thought this would be rather nice. I'm making this to go with my peony dress, which I made earlier in the summer. Well, I finished earlier in the summer. I had been making it for years. Yeah, and so I've decided to make it out of this yarn, which is, it doesn't say that, does it say the name of the yarn on here? It's from New Lanark Mills, and it has silk in it, this one actually. 90% pure new wool and 10% silk, and doesn't actually say the name of it. Certified carbon neutral though, I've only just spotted that. Oh, that's kind of exciting. I wonder what that means exactly, certified carbon neutral. I'll have to look that up. This is the cobalt colour. And I bought this yarn and I hadn't realised that it had all these yellow flecks in it. I don't know if you can see that there. And I didn't know if I was excited. I like the blue, the sort of like, it's almost a tealy blue colour. A muted sort of denim-y blue maybe. But I hadn't realised from the shade card that it was going to have all these yellow flecks in it. And I didn't know how I felt about that. Did I say that was the cobalt colour? Yeah. But when I knitted up the swatch, it's got bits on it there. When I knitted up the swatch, I started to like it a bit more, and I really like the fabric. So I have started already. I've done the, is there any point in showing you this little bit that I've done? So it's done from the top down using the contiguous method, which is a way of doing a set-in sleeve from the top down. I've done that before for the Koa cardigan, and I'm finding this mesh fabric quite hard on my hands to work, and so it's a little bit slow going. However, it seems to be growing reasonably quickly, so maybe all those holes are going to make it go faster. But I'm quite liking it, so yeah, that's my, well, one of the first projects towards my 100 grams of, using up 100 grams of, not 100 grams, 1,000 grams of stash yarn, a kilo of stash yarn. So yeah, just started there. That's really exciting. And I have it in my comfort pillow bag from the Fawn Knits, from the Fawn and the Fox, that Lara sent me when we did a swap. I love this bag. Very soft and squishy. This is the sock segment. And I've just realised I've come to the sock segment without a sock blocker. But nevertheless, here we go. So I have finished the latest pair of socks for the hairy man. And if you have watched the podcast before, you will know that I am making him 3 pairs of socks for his birthday at Christmas time. And I was going to make 1 sock a month. However, size 11 socks go on and on and on. And so I'm going to take a little break from making hairy man socks. I think what I'm going to do is leave the last pair to the last minute, and maybe sort of like be rushing to finish them on Christmas Eve or something like that. Or at least have a break until November and not make gigantic size 11 socks. The yarn for this is Opal Chapati. I think it's the first Chapati, I don't think it's one of the other series. And I think the colour is called Emily. And then I used an Eden Cottage yarn. I think it's Pendle in the Clematis colourway for the heels. And for this version of the hairy man socks, I have done a swirl toe at the end there, so it's a nice rounded toe. I've done a heel flap and gusset, and I made the gusset decreases quite far apart. I've just talked about the hairy man's instep before and how he needed more fabric around here, and so I decreased more slowly. I decreased every 3rd row instead of every other row, so that he would have more fabric. I'm still not convinced. I should really have made, I think I should really have made the heel flap longer, so that there would actually be more width in this section. I haven't actually had him try them on. Yeah, I probably should have done that before, because he's not in the North Sea or anything, he's only downstairs, so I could have had to try them on. I shall have him model them and we shall see how it looks. But I suspect for the last pair of Hairy Man socks, I'm actually going to need to make a longer heel flap. What I like to do with my heel flaps, there's no rhyme or reason to this. Has nothing to do with getting well-fitting socks. It's just a nice proportion. So I like to, on the heel flap, I like to divide the total number of stitches by 2 and do that many rows. So on this sock, it has a 64 stitch circumference. So that's 32 stitches across the heel flap. So I like to do 32 rows. It doesn't make a square or anything. It's just 50%, which is just, I don't know, it makes my brain feel good. And I think for the Hairy Man and I, that percentage is, that length is just too short. As I said though, I've not actually put these on him, so it could be just right. Yeah, but I really do think that I need to get out of my brain that that proportion is somehow right with the world, because if it doesn't fit your foot, then it's not, is it? I'm just babbling. Does that make any sense at all? Maybe. Anyway. The other thing I've done differently here was that with the first pair of socks, I had just done the cuff and knitted straight down, and it was really stretched around his calf. And so I have cast on, I think I cast on about 70 stitches and then decreased. You can probably see that there. Decreased down to the ankle. So yes, I shall put that on the Hairy Man, and he can model them, and hopefully I can put some pictures in here so you can see how they fit. It would have been sensible to do that first so I could discuss how they fitted, but anyway, no rhyme or reason to this sock segment, it's all just back to front. So those are the third pair of Hairy Man socks finished. They smell good. I washed them in Eucalyptus, so they smell lovely. He has been asking me where his first pair of socks disappeared to. I think he thinks I have given them to somebody else. But I have squirreled them away until Christmas time. So yes, that is the sock segment. The other thing that you will have seen that I have finished are my iris shorts. And this is a pattern by Colette, and it's just a little pair of shorts with pockets in, and I think I have talked about these a little bit before, and I was talking about the finishing techniques that I had used with them, because what I had done was I had bound all the seams using a Hong Kong finish, which uses bias binding to finish the seams. Yes, but I have done something else that was a little bit unusual, and I use two books quite a lot when I'm sewing, and they both have the same title. My puppy is eating my show notes again. Marshall, no. No. I should have gotten him something to chew on. Yeah, I like to use two books which have the same title. The first one is The Dressmaker's Handbook of Couture Sewing Techniques, and that's by Linda Maynard. That's that book there. And I like this book because it doesn't have loads of techniques in it, but it has really good descriptions of how to do them and lots of pictures. So that's a really good one. And so when I was doing this type of finishing, this was the book that I was looking in. And the other book that I use quite a bit is called Couture Sewing Techniques. And this one is by Claire B. Schaefer. And this one has loads and loads of information and history, but it's a little bit light on the how-to. There aren't many diagrams. A lot of the techniques are only described, and so there's a load of information in here, but you kind of have to use your imagination. And one of the things that I kind of was wondering how to do was with the Hong Kong finish at the seams, is that this bound bit doesn't necessarily go round corners and curves very well. And so I was wondering what to do with the crutch and how to finish that off. And so I was looking up in these two books to see, I don't know what designers would normally do to finish a crutch. You know, do they just pink it, or how do they bind them in some way, or something like that? And so the only thing I could find was in this book, and there was one little paragraph about a crutch liner that didn't give a lot of information. It's just this section here, that little paragraph just there. And all it says is to make a square of fabric and stitch it into the crutch. So anyway, I decided to try this out, this crutch liner. At sewing school we have dubbed it the crutch hanky. And so I don't know how successful it's going to be, and I don't know that I've done a particularly good job of it. And I don't know that it's going to be very comfortable when I wear them either. You never know, it might be quite nice not to have the seams rubbing on your legs. They're not that close to my crutch. So anyway, so I have made this triangle of, not a triangle, this square of fabric, and I've just tacked it into the seam allowances. Just as an experiment to see how it works really. One of the other ladies at sewing school actually took some pictures of her husband's trousers, because there was a crutch liner in those, but it wasn't done in quite the same way as this one. And I think, I mean, you make this little square and you sew it in on the bias so that there's some stretch running this way, and it does actually curve in there. But I'm really interested to see how my crutch hanky works out. We have been guffawing over this for weeks at sewing school. But anyway, but I thought I would, you know, it's quite nice to just try those new techniques. Yeah, and I'm really pleased with the finish on these. There are some things like I pulled the binding a bit tight when I did one of the pockets, so it doesn't quite sit flat. I don't know if you can see that. I think it's that one there. But I think it's okay. And other than that, I'm really pleased. I think they'll last a long time, and they look really good on the inside. And they fit quite well as well. I think I could have taken out maybe a centimetre on the side seams. One of the nice things about this pattern is because the pockets are actually sewn into these front seams, you can still adjust the side seams as you go along relatively easily. So yeah, they fit me really nicely, and now that it's not shorts weather, they're all ready to wear. But anyway, I shall have them for next year, and I'm planning to make a couple of little tops to go with them as well for my handmade wardrobe. So that will be very exciting when the weather gets a bit warmer. The last thing I had to talk about today was a question from the What Would You Like to Hear About thread from Vinca Kent, and she asked about these fellows back here, and so I thought I would tell you about them today. I have another question in that thread about how I started spinning, so I shall answer that one next time, so stand by for that. But in So, introducing my little friends back here. This first one is a little owl, obviously. Well, when it focuses you'll be able to see it's a little owl. This was a really cute little embroidery kit from Cardigan Press on Etsy, and I have a little bear kit as well that I haven't made yet, but the instructions for this are so detailed. You can download a beginner's manual on how to do all the embroidery stitches. I mean, I'm no great shakes at embroidery, but the instruction manual was really clear and helpful, and it was so much fun to make this little fellow. I should crack on and make that bear. They're so cute. Yeah, that was really good fun. The next fellow here, this is Nils the bear, and he is a bakery bear. He's made out of Drops alpaca and some Eden cottage yarn, and I made him on little needles. I'll put a link to my project note so you can see what size needles I used to make a miniature bakery bear, and that pattern is by Kay Jones. So yeah, that's Nils the bear, his little bead eyes and little jumper. So yes, and then actually I'll show you this one. This is the newest arrival, and I don't know what the pattern or the yarn is, because this was made by my mother-in-law to come and sit with my little friend here. Another owl. It's crocheted, and I'm not sure where she got the pattern from, but yes, he's a very sweet little chap. And then there is Hedgie the hedgehog, and this fellow is a Susan B. Anderson pattern, and I made him, I was using up my hand spun. It was some North Ronaldsy in 2 different colours. I don't think that's focusing. It's late in the day here and the light is changing. And he was a bit fiddly to make, but so much fun, and it didn't take very long. And I've also made the squirrel pattern with the pockets by Susan B. Anderson, and that was really fun as well. I gifted that to a lovely chum. But yes, so that's Hedgie. I do wish that I had put some washers or some sort of weight in his bottom so that he would have sat up better. Yeah, so that's Hedgie. And then the last one is this really sweet little fox. And this was another gift from my mother-in-law, and she made this from a kit that she got at the knitting and stitching show, and she has the pattern, but it's such a bummer because, is that focusing on my dear little foxy friend? It's such a bummer because we haven't been able to find this lovely shade of felt again. I hope that's focusing. It looks like it's struggling a bit. I think it's just that time of day when the light starts to go. Let me try again. We'll see if this works out. So yes, she didn't have a name, although I suddenly feel like I should call her Frida or something. So I hope you can see here, and that's not just a blurry mess. Yeah. But she's so delightful with her little smock on as well. So those are my lovely chums that live up here on my headboard. So that's me for today, and it's been lovely to chat with you again and have you along. If you do decide to join the Knit 1000 grams, I suppose it's a lot and a long, then do come and join me. I shall get my act together in terms of prizes and when I'm going to give them. And yeah, it would be, even if you're not joining, it would be marvellous to see you in the group. And I hope you have a lovely day and enjoy some knitting time, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio!